we of the First Presidency and the Council of the 12 Apostles now issue a proclamation to the Church and to the world as a declaration and reaffirmation of standards, doctrines, and practices relative to the family, which the prophets, seers, and revelators of this church have repeatedly stated throughout its history.
So Gordon B. Hinckley called the Family Proclamation a reaffirmation of doctrines that the church has repeatedly stated throughout its history. The thing is, for the majority of the document, that is false. Let's look at gender. Throughout its history, prophets have taught against eternal gender. They instead teach a sort of selective resurrection, in which only those who obtain the highest heaven get to keep their genitals. The Family Proclamation states that gender is eternal, so you think that that would be the church's current stance. However, President Nelson restated in this last General Conference, in not so many words, that this selective resurrection of our celestial bodies is absolutely still a doctrine in Mormonism. Let's talk about children. The church used to teach that there were babies waiting in heaven, and that if you did not have as many children as you possibly could, those children that were assigned to you would go to other homes, and you would stand guilty in the next life for not accepting your role as their parent. Today, however, it seems that the proper amount of children is only 4 or less. If you look at the top 15 leaders of the church, the average amount of kids for every prophet, seer, and revelator is 4. The church today holds that the amount of children you're supposed to have is however many you want. And if we're talking about kids in the Family Proclamation, we might as well talk about birth control. In the past, Mormon leaders have taught that if women take birth control, she was not promised salvation or exaltation, and that she would even be damned. Today, their stance is that birth control is entirely up to the couple. Let's talk about being lawfully wed. Shortly after the church was organized, Joseph Smith started engaging in polygamy. This was never legal, and the prophets after him likewise engaged in unlawful marriages. So being legally and lawfully married is also not a reaffirmation of Mormon doctrine. Let's talk about gender roles. The Family Proclamation sets forth that mothers are primarily responsible for the nurture of their children, and the fathers are to preside, provide, and protect. One thing that I find interesting is that if you look at the church's stance on the Equal Rights Amendment, the church believed that unless fathers and mothers were legally forced to take care of their children, or each other, they wouldn't. So even though it's their natural, God-given role, they hold that our natures would cause us to abandon our loved ones and desire something different. And in a recent General Conference talk, Elder Suarez said that gender roles need not be so exclusive. So that's not really a thing either. Also, where does it say in the scriptures that the disintegration of the nuclear family would bring upon us the calamities foretold by ancient and modern prophets? Did they just make that up? Like, seriously, where does it say that? Can someone give me the scripture and verse? So just to summarize, the family, a proclamation to the world, is not a reaffirmation of doctrines and standards set forth by the church and repeated throughout its history.